When you expect nothing, something ruthless awakens inside you. The world conditions you to hope, wait, and depend, because expectation makes you predictable. It softens your edges and exposes your hunger. Every expectation is a silent agreement to be controlled. When you stop expecting respect, approval, love, or fairness, you remove the leverage others use against you. Disappointment no longer shocks you. Betrayal no longer cripples you. You move forward untouched. This is not pessimism. This is power. A man who expects nothing is calm in chaos, focused in loss, and dangerous in silence. He does not chase outcomes. He prepares for realities. He understands that attachment creates weakness, and weakness invites manipulation. So he detaches, not emotionally dead, but strategically alive. He gives effort without begging for reward. He observes without reacting. He plans without announcing. In this state you cannot be rushed, provoked, or cornered. You become unmovable because nothing external controls your inner state. This is the first law of becoming untouchable. Expect nothing so nothing can be taken from you. If this resonates, comment, "I expect nothing." Silence sharpens you. Discipline seals you, and detachment crowns you ruler of yourself when pressure tests character daily. Now, if this mindset already shifted something in you, stay with us. Subscribe to Machiavellian Mind and sharpen your thinking before the world notices you've changed. Number 2, the death of expectation. Once you expect nothing, you stop leaking power through emotional cracks you didn't even know existed. Most men are exhausted not from work, but from silent disappointment. They carry invisible contracts in their minds, how people should treat them, how life should reward them, how effort should be noticed. And every time reality breaks those contracts, something inside them fractures. You will not make that mistake again. When you expect nothing, rejection loses its sting because you never asked for acceptance. Disrespect loses its fire because your identity is not dependent on validation. Loss becomes information, not a wound. You start to see clearly who people are, not who you hoped they would be. This is where dark psychology meets discipline. You understand that humans reveal their true nature when expectations are removed. Promises become irrelevant. Words become noise. Only behavior matters. And because you expect nothing, you are never surprised, only prepared. This makes you lethal in strategy. Calm men see more. Detached men think faster. Silent men move first. You stop explaining yourself because explanation is an unconscious request for approval. You stop reacting because reaction is surrendering control. You stop seeking closure because closure is a luxury for those still emotionally invested. Instead, you adjust, reposition, and continue. This is masculine stoicism refined through realism. You don't harden yourself out of anger. You sharpen yourself out of understanding. You accept that life is indifferent, people are inconsistent, and outcomes are uncertain. And instead of fighting these truths, you use them. You build strength that does not depend on external stability. When chaos arrives, you do not panic because you never expected comfort. When betrayal appears, you do not collapse because you never expected loyalty. When success delays, you do not quit because you never expected ease. This is how you become impossible to defeat, not by winning every battle, but by never being emotionally exposed in the first place. If this part spoke to you, comment below. I expect nothing and move in silence. Number 3, the power of emotional starvation. When you expect nothing, you starve the world of its favorite weapon against you, your emotions. Most people are not defeated physically or intellectually. They are defeated emotionally long before the battle even begins. They are pulled, provoked, delayed, and distracted because something inside them still wants reassurance, fairness, recognition, or closure. You are no longer that man. Emotional starvation does not mean you feel nothing. It means you no longer feed your energy into outcomes you cannot control. You stop chasing reactions. You stop craving responses. You stop handing people access to your internal state. This is where real dominance begins. The moment others realize they cannot read you, cannot upset you, cannot reward or punish you emotionally, they become uneasy. Silence becomes your language. Neutrality becomes your shield. While others argue to be understood, you observe to gain advantage. While others explode to release pressure, you compress it into focus. Dark psychology teaches a brutal truth. The person who needs the least controls the most. When you remove need, you remove hooks. No one can bait you with promises. No one can threaten you with withdrawal. No one can manipulate you with guilt. You stop explaining yourself, because explanations are emotional confessions disguised as logic. You stop defending your choices because defense implies doubt. You move decisively, quietly, without emotional fingerprints. Masculine stoicism is not emotional suppression. It is emotional mastery. You feel everything, but you reveal nothing that can be used against you. This is why detached men are always underestimated at first and feared later. People mistake your calm for weakness until they realize nothing shakes you. Pressure does not rush you. Loss does not derail you. Praise does not intoxicate you. You remain centered while others spiral around you. That is emotional starvation at work. You deny the world access to your reactions, and in doing so, you reclaim absolute control over yourself. Power is not loud. Power is not reactive. Power is the quiet certainty that no matter what happens, you will adjust, endure, and advance without emotional debt. If you understand this level of control, comment below. I starve the world of my reactions. Number 4. Detachment turns you untouchable. When you expect nothing, detachment stops being a defense mechanism and becomes an operating system. This is where you cross a line most men never even see. You are no longer driven by how things feel, how people respond, or how outcomes unfold in the moment. You are driven by positioning, by leverage, by long-term control. Detachment strips urgency out of your decisions, and urgency is where mistakes are born. Most people rush because they want relief, they want certainty, they want reassurance. You don't. And because you don't, you move with terrifying patience. You no longer argue to win emotionally. You let time expose weakness. You let silence pressure others into revealing themselves. Detachment teaches you something brutal and useful. People behave differently when they sense you don't need them. Their masks slip, their tone changes, their tactics escalate, and that information is worth more than any argument you could ever win. This is dark psychology in its purest form. You don't confront, you observe. You don't threaten. You allow people to underestimate you. While they assume you are indifferent, you are calculating. While they think you've disengaged, you've already repositioned. Masculine stoicism here is not about withdrawal from life. It is about refusal to be emotionally recruited into chaos. You stop reacting to disrespect because reaction validates it. You stop explaining your silence because silence needs no justification. You stop seeking closure because closure is for people who still need emotional resolution. You don't. You are complete without answers. This is why detachment makes you untouchable. Nothing external can destabilize your internal order. Praise doesn't inflate you. Criticism doesn't shrink you. Loss doesn't collapse you. You absorb reality without resistance and adapt without complaint. And that adaptability is dominance. The world cannot defeat what it cannot provoke. People cannot control what they cannot read. Situations cannot trap what refuses to panic. Detachment sharpens your instincts, cleanses your decisions, and turns pressure into clarity. This is why the most powerful men appear calm when everything is unstable. They expected nothing, so nothing surprises them. Nothing controls them. Nothing owns them. They move forward regardless, untouched by emotional turbulence, focused on outcomes that matter only to them. If this level of control resonates with you, comment below. Detached, disciplined, untouchable. Number 5. Expect nothing. Control everything. When you expect nothing, control returns to its rightful place inside you. Most men believe control comes from force, influence, or authority over others. But that belief exposes their weakness. True control begins the moment your emotional state no longer depends on outcomes. When you stop expecting success, failure loses its ability to discourage you. When you stop expecting loyalty, betrayal becomes predictable instead of devastating. When you stop expecting fairness, injustice no longer distracts you from execution. This mindset does not make you passive, it makes you precise. You begin to operate without emotional interference. You do the work whether recognition arrives or not. You prepare whether victory comes quickly or late. You advance even when progress feels invisible. Dark psychology reveals a simple law. People who expect rewards are easily delayed, redirected, or pacified. You are no longer negotiable. You are no longer waiting for permission, applause, or confirmation. You decide, you act, you adjust. Masculine stoicism here is not about denying ambition. It is about refusing to let ambition expose desperation. You want results, but you do not need them to validate your worth. That distinction is lethal. It makes you immune to pressure tactics, immune to false promises, immune to emotional manipulation disguised as opportunity. When others attempt to motivate you with incentives, you remain unmoved. When they attempt to threaten you with loss, you remain calm. They realize quickly that they cannot pull you forward or push you back. You move on your own timeline. This is why men who expect nothing become impossible to control. They don't rush, they don't panic, they don't overreact. They read situations cleanly because emotion is no longer clouding perception. Control over yourself creates dominance over circumstances. You choose when to speak and when to remain silent. You choose when to engage and when to disappear. You choose when to strike and when to wait. This internal sovereignty is rare, and rarity creates power. People sense it. They may not understand it, but they feel it. They hesitate around you. They test less. They respect more, even if unconsciously. Expectation made you predictable. Detachment made you disciplined. And now control makes you dangerous. Not reckless, not loud. Dangerous because nothing external can rush your decisions or weaken your resolve. You are no longer chasing control. You embody it. If you are ready to live at this level, comment below. I expect nothing. I control everything. Number 6, the man who needs nothing cannot be broken. When you reach the point where you truly need nothing, you step outside the psychological battlefield where most men are defeated without ever realizing a war was taking place. Need is the root of pressure. Need creates urgency. Need creates compromise. Need creates hesitation disguised as morality. The world is built to sense need and exploit it. People probe for it in conversation, in tone, in silence. Institutions design systems around it. Relationships weaponize it. But the man who needs nothing walks through all of it untouched. He does not fear loss, because he never anchored his identity to possession. He does not fear abandonment, because he never outsourced his stability to another human being. He does not fear failure because his self-respect is not rented from outcomes. This is where Machiavellian realism becomes internal law. You stop seeing life as something that must satisfy you and start seeing it as terrain to navigate. You no longer ask, what will I get from this? You ask, what position does this put me in? That shift alone removes 90% of emotional weakness. Dark psychology teaches that desperation leaks through micro-behaviors, over-explaining, rushing decisions, seeking reassurance, reacting to disrespect. You eliminate desperation by eliminating need. You do not argue to be understood. You do not chase clarity. You do not correct misperceptions that do not affect your long-term position. Masculine stoicism here is ruthless and clean. You accept discomfort without dramatizing it. You accept uncertainty without flinching. You accept solitude without resentment. This is why such men are difficult to read and impossible to trap. Threats fail because there is nothing you are afraid to lose. Rewards fail because there is nothing you crave enough to compromise your frame. Emotional manipulation collapses because you no longer negotiate your inner state with external forces. You still feel pressure, but pressure no longer dictates movement. You still experience desire, but desire no longer dictates behavior. You still face loss, but loss no longer dictates identity. This is not detachment from ambition. It is detachment from illusion. You understand that control begins where need ends. You move slower than impatient men and faster than fearful ones. You listen more than you speak. You reveal less than you know. You let others exhaust themselves performing while you conserve energy and gather information. When conflict appears, you do not escalate emotionally. You de-escalate internally and escalate strategically. This is why the man who needs nothing cannot be broken. He bends when necessary, withdraws when useful, advances when decisive. He does not collapse under pressure because pressure was never unexpected. He does not resent reality because he never demanded it behave differently. In the world of Machiavellian mind, this is the final refinement of power before dominance becomes effortless. Needing nothing is not emptiness. It is freedom sharpened into discipline, and freedom combined with discipline is what makes a man untouchable in environments designed to break weaker minds. If you understand this level of power, comment below. I need nothing and I fear nothing. Number 7, silence becomes your final weapon. When you expect nothing, silence stops being awkward and starts becoming lethal. Most men speak to fill gaps, to ease tension, to prove worth, to regain control when they feel uncertain. You no longer do that. Your silence is not confusion. It is calculation. It is restraint sharpened by awareness. Silence is what remains when you no longer need validation, agreement, or permission. And once you reach this stage, people feel it immediately. They sense that you are not performing for them. You are not persuading. You are not pleading your case. You are watching, listening, measuring. Silence unsettles insecure minds because it gives them nothing to grab onto. No emotional cues, no reassurance, no predictable rhythm. They project onto you. They reveal themselves. They talk more. They over-explain. They expose motives without realizing it. This is why silence is power. Dark psychology teaches that whoever speaks less controls the frame. The more someone talks, the more they reveal what they want. Fear or lack, you let them. You don't interrupt momentum. You don't rush to clarify misunderstandings. You understand that not every false assumption needs correction. Some misunderstandings work in your favor. Masculine stoicism here is not muteness. It is selectivity. You speak when words move the board, not when they soothe the ego. You understand that reacting verbally is often surrendering position. Explaining yourself hands people context they did not earn. Defending yourself gives accusations weight they never deserved. So you stay silent, calm, unbothered. And that calm begins to dominate the room. Silence forces others to confront their own insecurity. They wonder what you know, what you're planning, why you're not responding. That uncertainty creates psychological pressure, and pressure makes people sloppy. They chase clarity. They seek approval. They attempt control. You give them none. You remain centered, unmoved, grounded in your own internal order. This is where expectation truly dies. You no longer expect to be understood. You no longer expect to be liked. You no longer expect resolution through conversation. You expect only one thing, your own discipline. And that discipline governs your mouth, your posture, your timing. Silence also protects you from emotional leakage. Words spoken in anger, fear, excitement, or frustration always cost more than they give. You've seen this play out enough times to know better. You let emotions pass without translating them into speech. You allow moments to settle before deciding whether they deserve response at all. Most don't. This is why silence becomes your final weapon. It preserves energy, it maintains ambiguity, it denies others access to your inner state. In environments full of noise, opinions, and performative confidence, silence stands out as authority. People defer to it instinctively. They assume depth where there is restraint. They assume strength where there is calm, and often they are right. You are no longer racing to be heard. You are positioning to be undeniable. This is the stage where power becomes effortless, because you are no longer competing on the same emotional level as everyone else. You are operating above it. If you are ready to master silence at this level, comment below. My silence is deliberate. Number 8. You become unreachable by design. When you expect nothing, something final locks into place. You become unreachable by design, not emotionally distant out of fear, not isolated out of bitterness, but inaccessible because access must now be earned. Most men are constantly available to be drained, interrupted, distracted, pulled into drama, recruited into other people's chaos. You are no longer that man. Your time is guarded. Your energy is protected. Your attention is selective. This is where power stops being something you chase and starts being something people feel around you. You do not announce boundaries. You enforce them through behavior. You do not explain absences. You let distance do the talking. You do not rush to respond. You respond when it benefits your position. Dark psychology understands a truth most never accept. Availability lowers value and predictability invites control. By becoming unreachable, you remove both. People cannot pull you into emotional loops because you are not always there to react. They cannot manipulate your urgency because you no longer move on their timeline. You are not hiding. You are prioritizing. Masculine stoicism here is disciplined withdrawal. You know when to engage and when to disappear. You know when presence adds leverage and when absence creates it. This makes you difficult to replace and impossible to pressure. People sense that your life does not revolve around their approval, their validation, or their expectations, and that realization shifts the dynamic immediately. You are no longer chasing connection. You are filtering it. You are no longer explaining your choices. You are executing them. You are no longer asking to be understood, you are letting results speak. This is why unreachable men are respected even when misunderstood. They are not begging for alignment. They are moving forward regardless. Expecting nothing frees you from emotional dependency, and freedom creates structure. You build routines that do not require motivation. You build standards that do not require enforcement. You build goals that do not require applause, while others burn energy managing perception. You invest energy building capability. This is how dominance becomes quiet and continuous. You don't posture. You don't threaten. You don't compete loudly. You simply outlast, outposition, and outperform. Being unreachable also protects you from false urgency. Every crisis is not your crisis. Every opinion is not your responsibility. Every invitation is not an opportunity. You choose carefully because choice is a privilege earned through discipline. You have trained yourself to tolerate boredom, solitude, and silence, which means you are no longer easily distracted by novelty or noise. Most people chase stimulation because they cannot sit with themselves. You can, and that alone puts you ahead. When conflict arises, you are not immediately available to escalate it. When temptation appears, you are not immediately available to indulge it. When pressure increases, you are not immediately available to break. This creates an aura of control that cannot be faked. People stop testing you because tests yield no reaction. They stop pushing because resistance never appears. They stop demanding because demands fall into silence. This is not arrogance. This is alignment. You have aligned your inner world so tightly that external interference struggles to penetrate it. The unreachable man is not lonely. He is selective. He is not cold. He is contained. He is not absent. He is intentional. This is the stage where Machiavellian discipline and Stoic restraint fuse into a single operating principle. Access is a privilege, not a right. And once you internalize that, your life becomes quieter, cleaner, and far more dangerous to those who rely on distraction, pressure, and emotional chaos to win. If you are ready to live unreachable by design, comment below. Access is earned. Number 9, nothing can touch. What expects? Nothing. When you reach this stage, you finally understand why expecting nothing makes you impossible to defeat. Not emotionally, not psychologically, not strategically. You are no longer living from hope or fear. You are living from alignment. Most men are reactive because they are still negotiating with reality. They want life to confirm them, reward them, validate them, or reassure them. You no longer require any of that. And that freedom removes the final pressure point others unconsciously search for. Nothing can touch a man who is no longer waiting to be fulfilled by outcomes. You don't need victory to feel powerful. You don't need revenge to feel whole. You don't need recognition to feel significant. You are already complete. And completeness is unassailable. Dark psychology reveals a harsh truth. People can only destabilize you through what you are attached to. Ego, image, comfort, approval, identity. You have cut those cords. That does not make you empty. It makes you grounded. You move with certainty because nothing external defines your internal state. Insults fall flat because they find nothing to hook into. Provocation fails because reaction is no longer automatic. Loss passes through you without collapse because you are never dependent on possession for stability. This is masculine stoicism at its highest level. Not numbness, but command. You feel everything, yet nothing controls you. You experience pressure, yet pressure does not rush you. You encounter resistance, yet resistance does not anger you. You no longer confuse emotional intensity with importance. You see clearly what matters, and what is simply noise designed to distract weaker minds. When conflict appears, you do not fight for dominance emotionally. You let others burn energy trying to pull you into drama. While they escalate, you conserve. While they seek reaction, you withdraw. While they demand answers, you offer silence. This imbalance drains them and sharpens you. The man who expects nothing is immune to disappointment because disappointment requires expectation. He is immune to manipulation because manipulation requires desire. He is immune to intimidation because intimidation requires fear of loss. And you have removed all three. This is why such men often appear calm in situations that break others. They are not calm because they are unaware. They are calm because they are prepared. They accepted reality long before it arrived. They accepted human nature without romanticism. They accepted chaos as normal. So when chaos shows up, it feels familiar. There is no shock, no outrage, no emotional negotiation, only movement, adjustment, execution. You no longer need to prove strength because strength no longer doubts itself. You no longer announce intentions because intention speaks loudest through action. You no longer chase control because control follows discipline automatically. This is where power becomes quiet, almost invisible, but absolute. People sense it without being able to explain it. They feel that you are not dependent on their reaction, that you are not waiting for permission, that you are not seeking entry, and that awareness shifts every interaction. They approach more carefully, they test less, they respect more, even unconsciously. Nothing can touch you because you have removed the conditions required for attack. You have accepted uncertainty, impermanence, and indifference as facts, not threats. And by doing so, you have stepped outside the emotional economy most people are trapped in. This is not isolation, it is sovereignty. You are self-governed, self-regulated, self-directed, and a man who governs himself cannot be conquered from the outside. If you understand this final layer of immunity, comment below, "Nothing touches me." Before we finish the final rule, take a second to subscribe and turn on notifications, because the men who move ahead quietly never miss what matters. Number 10, the final rule, absolute inner sovereignty. This is where everything converges. This is the final rule most never reach because it requires you to release the last illusion that power comes from outside you. When you expect nothing, you no longer negotiate with reality, people, outcomes, or timing. You stand on your own authority. Inner sovereignty means your decisions are not crowdsourced. Your direction is not influenced by praise or criticism. Your pace is not dictated by pressure or urgency. You move because you decide to move, not because circumstances push you. This is the highest Machiavellian discipline, self-rule without apology. Most men are ruled by moods, by reactions, by the emotional weather of the room they walk into. You are not. Your inner state is stable because it is not outsourced. You no longer ask life to make sense before you act. You act first, then adapt. You no longer wait for confidence to appear. You operate despite uncertainty. You no longer need motivation. You have structure, and structure outlasts emotion every time. Dark psychology reveals that those who cannot govern themselves will always be governed by others, by institutions, by relationships, by fear, by desire. You have stepped out of that hierarchy. You are not rebellious. You are autonomous. You do not resist control emotionally. You simply do not offer yourself to it. Masculine Stoicism here is absolute alignment between thought, emotion, and action. There is no internal conflict draining energy, no hidden resentment poisoning focus, no need to perform strength because strength is already internalized. You do not rush to defend your reputation because reputation no longer defines you. You do not chase legacy because legacy is a byproduct of consistency, not obsession. You wake up knowing exactly what is required of you, and you execute without drama. This is why men at this level appear calm even under extreme pressure. They are not suppressing fear. They have already accepted the worst and moved past it mentally. They are not detached from life. They are deeply engaged without being entangled. They care, but they are not controlled by caring. This is the paradox of true power. Expecting nothing does not make you indifferent. It makes you precise. You invest energy where it compounds. You withdraw energy where it leaks. You choose battles that move you forward and ignore those designed to drain you. Over time, this creates an aura that cannot be taught or faked. People feel that you are not seeking approval, not seeking conflict, not seeking validation. You are seeking alignment. And alignment makes you unstoppable because it removes internal friction. This is the final form. Not domination over others, but command over self. Not emotional hardness, but emotional authority. Not isolation, but independence. When you reach this point, life stops feeling like something that happens to you and starts feeling like something you navigate deliberately. You are no longer trying to win every moment. You are building a position that cannot collapse. This is the rule that ends the game. Expect nothing so nothing can control you, rush you, weaken you, or break you. If this completes the mindset for you, comment below. I rule myself.